What is going on, everyone out there in the trading world? Jeremy Ritz, Courage Pays Better Than Fear, here with another earnings preview. And today we are looking at Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. And they are going to be reporting on Wednesday with their good friend Meta. If you haven't checked out that earnings preview, make sure that you do. But if we take a look at Microsoft, look at this massive rally it has had since April. This thing just skyrocketed to the moon. And this gap up here, I remember fondly because I had two little tiny call options that turned into over $3,000. And had I not cut them so soon, I would have made quite a larger profit. But congrats to all the bulls who have been in this one. Microsoft really consolidated for the longest time. If you just look here to the left, from really February of 24 over until its breakout, it just moved sideways. Sure, we had all-time highs, but that long time in its consolidation phase led to this massive breakout that we're seeing. And so the question is, being that we've just made all-time highs here a few days ago, the 25th, what is in store for Microsoft on its earnings report? And again, they're going to be reporting on Wednesday. The day that I'm recording it, this is a Monday because I wanted to get this out. And so to do that, let's just take a look back at the last 5 earnings reports, what has happened, and then come up with the bull case, the bear case in terms of where this thing potentially can go. So let's jump in and check that out. But first, we can see here today on this Monday, Microsoft is down $1 at $512.59. So just a nothing burger inside of Friday's candle where it made that all-time high. But let's go take a look at the last few earnings reports. So here, if we take a look at April, this is really what triggered the run we saw off of those tariff lows. And what did we have here? We had a massive gap up. And this was to the tune of, from close to that high, 10.61%, $41.97. That price did fade a little bit that day, but then what happened? Pushed back up, was hitting its head on that 100 SMA on the daily, and then it grinded higher to the levels where we've seen it right now. What a push, man. $512, it's just a beautiful thing. And let's come over here to January 29th of 2025. That seems like ages ago. Let's measure from this close down to the low here. We saw a move of 6.65% to the downside. We had a gap down. My screen just left me. What is going on with that? I have to wait for it to come back. There it is. Let's measure this out again just to make sure that I didn't miss it. So from the low down, or the close down to the low, 6.51%, a drop of $28.79. So the bears won this one. So let's just write here, gap down, bang. So the bears with the W here. And then after that gap down, this thing chopped sideways a bit. It did push back up into that 20 and then it fell. But everything was very weak at that time because of all the tariff fun stuff, right? We can remember all that. And then let's come back here to Wednesday, October 30th. Microsoft had pushed up into the 100. See, this isn't, the 100 is right here, but it started to make a push higher. And what happened on this report? We had a bang, gap down of 6%, $26.37. So this was a win for the bears. So we had another gap down. And again, Microsoft moved sideways for quite some time. So these gap downs are pretty consistent. You're going to see that as I go through these reports. But after this gap down, it moved sideways and we did get a little bit of a push, drop back down, found some support, and then grinded higher, but really just remained range bound. So of the last 3 reports that we look at, bulls win 1, bears win 2. Let's come back to July of last year, which is right around the time we are now. And this is when a lot of weakness started coming into the market as a result of fear about the labor market. Let's measure this one out. So where are we? Here's the candle. Nope. Here we are. So from the close down to the low, we had another gap down. And that's 2.6%. Things were down quite a bit at that point anyway. So that wasn't a huge move, a drop of almost $11. But again, that was a win for the bears, gap down. You guys remember the flash crash of last year in August, and that's what followed this. So it did drop down further. Again, this was the bottom of that flash crash. There was some good money to be made there. And then it pushed back up and just was range bound. So The Bears have dominated. 3 wins out of the last 4. The Bulls only had that one in April. And then let's come to the last one we're going to look at is April of 2024. So let's measure this one out. We're looking right here at this guy. So from the close to the high, that was a 3.53% move, $14. Again, pretty weak in terms of big tech for an earnings move. And you could see that after that, it faded right back down. It gave back all those gains. So we're just going to put gap up, but faded its gains. All right. So really, when you consider what Microsoft has done over its last 5 earnings reports, there's really been only one true gap up, and that's the one that occurred this past April. The last 3 gap downs prior to April, and then the one before that, it gapped up, it faded its gains. In terms of probabilities, the way we're looking at this, just because it had such a strong gap up does not mean that this is done and it's going to gap down, because we see just from a probability perspective, there's still some meat left on the bone here because it's just been essentially moving sideways. Its earnings reports were nothing burgers. And as hard and as strongly as this thing has moved, there's still an opportunity for it to push even higher, okay? Now, let's look at this from a technical perspective. Logically, okay, we're at all-time highs. We are overbought on the RSI. We're seeing the volume, the volume's still staying up there. It's decreased a little bit, but just sheerly by looking at the charts, you would think, oh, hey, it just seems like this thing is ready to correct and pull back, right? So that's the easy way to look at this. But we have to remember, markets are completely irrational and they're going to do what they're going to do. I don't have a great edge on this one, and I could see this going either way, but as strong as Microsoft has been, and because it moved sideways for such a long period of time, I would not be surprised at all to see this one gap up. The one thing we have to consider, though, is they're reporting at the same time as Meta, and so the question we have to ask ourselves is, are they going to gap both of these big boys up at the same time? You would think that they would have to put one in the penalty box, gap the other up, and oh yeah, we still have Amazon and Apple and Nvidia who have to report. So I don't have a great edge on this one, but what could this thing do if it's going to move higher? Again, this was the big move here, right? That's 10%, but the other moves that we looked at, 3%, 5%. So we're going to say that this is going to be slightly in the middle. So we're just going to measure it from where the current price action is, and we're going to go up 5% for a move to the upside on Microsoft, because that's pretty fitting for what it historically has done on moves up. So that would take us up to about 537.55 for the bull case. So this thing could continue to go higher, bull case. And again, there's still enthusiasm and excitement for this ticker. And it, again, because it had moved sideways for quite some time, there's still a possibility that it can push, right? We do have nice support here on the VRVP, but notice it hasn't touched that 20-day exponential moving average since April 24th. So it is in desperate need of a pullback. So considering that, the bear case, so here's the thing, even the bear case on this, I do believe it will get bought up because there's a lot of excitement around Microsoft right now. But again, let's just look and see where the support is. Again, we have these thick nodes on the visible range volume profile, but what I'm seeing is this thin area of volume here. And oh, what do we have here? We have the 50 simple moving average on the daily at 483.20. And if we would take that move lower down to that 50, that would bring us down about 28, almost $29, 5.63%. And if I'm looking at this from the bear perspective, this would be my bear case. Now, I will say this, I don't have a true edge on this one. And typically when I'm looking at a chart, looking at the probabilities, what's happening in the broader market, I will feel comfortable making a call. For this one, I don't really have a prediction here. I do think that Meta is in a better place to push higher. They're reporting at the same time. I don't think they'll gap both of them up, but if you're forcing me to take a spot on Microsoft, I still think there's some upside potential here. Again, just because it was choppy for such a long period of time. But this is one that I'm not really convinced. I won't be playing this over earnings with options or shares because I just don't have a great edge on it. I can't wait to see what happens, but in all truth, all reality, I will watch this one from the sidelines. But if it does move higher, 537.96 seems like a likely spot based on previous moves to the upside. And 483.43 at that 50 SMA seems like a good bear spot if we drop down based on historical perspective. If it does drop, I expect it to get bought up. And that's my take on Microsoft reporting in tandem with Meta on Wednesday. And what are your thoughts? What is going to happen with Microsoft? Let me know in the comments below. Smash that subscribe button, and I will see you back here for one of the 8,000 earnings previews I'm doing for this week. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and make it a great day.
Shoot higher.